Hello, I'm Daniela. In today's video, I'm going to use the straight stitch in a series to add to my quilt block. This is for the online workshop, the Slow Stitching Crazy Quilt Block Workshop. Now, using the straight stitch, depending on how you orient it, can get a very interesting effect. I like to use it so that it combines two fabrics together, and I'll show you how I do that. One of the more simpler stitches to use when creating a crazy quilt block is just to combine two sides with straight stitches. So even though this is just one piece of fabric, let's pretend there's fabrics joining in between the two here. The two seams of the fabric would be somewhere in between. So it's just easy enough to make a straight stitch anchoring both fabrics together. So you just come up and go straight up. And you just repeat this over and over again, spacing it however you like. Closed, smaller stitches look very neat. Larger stitches give a lot of texture. The point is you're just coming up and joining the two stitches so it looks a little more finished than having seams side by side. It's very simple to do, but I find by making those outer lines where you want both stitches to start and end, it creates much more neater appearance than just trying to eyeball it, at least for me. And just like that, I have that completed. So now to use a straight stitch, I'm just going to cover this little seam where these two pieces intersect. I'm going to use some of this beautiful 3712, the coral color, and I don't want it to be too large. I just want to pick up some of the color from here. I think it'll just add a pop of color to my work. I have a length of embroidery floss cut, and because I want it to be a little more delicate than those 6 strands, I'm going to split it into 3 strands. So I just tap the edge, pull out a strand of floss one at a time, and by doing this, I don't tangle my thread. If I was to pull out or attempt to pull out all 3 or even 2 at a time, it tangles. But because I pull it out individually, I get a nice smooth result, and I can save this to use in the future. And then I just take my thread and combine them. Just like this, bringing them back together, and I have a nice smooth result to use. So I'll just thread my needle and I can get started on that straight stitch. So I've threaded my needle and knotted the end of the thread, and now I just want to make my lines just so I have a neat line to follow. I'm going to stop right here at that rickrack. So I'll start by coming up underneath, or at least very close to this blue, and I create my first stitch. Then I decide how far I want to bring it over and space the next one. And I'll continue this the length of the piece just with these basic stitches. And it adds a whole nother element. It pulls in a different color, and it's a very simple stitch to do. Particularly after that Portuguese stem stitch, it's nice to have just a basic stitch that you could think about other things while you're doing. So now as I finish this stitching area, I realize the eye sees that empty spot and it's really drawn to that. So I'm going to continue with my stitches just to finish it off neatly. I'm going to tuck it behind the trim because I want the trim to be the major thing that people see. But I'll just create little partial stitches that I hide underneath the trim. And I think that's much better. I'll knot it on the back, and that's my block. Just 2 more sides to work on. So that's how I use the straight stitch in a series to use on my quilt block. I really like the simpleness of that stitch. I actually really like not only how it looks, but the process of doing it. It's just so easy. It's a real no-brainer. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. And if you'd like some more behind-the-scenes footage, as well as access to a slow stitching library, please consider becoming a paid member of my channel. The link is in the show notes. Thanks for joining me today.